We're going to talk a little bit about root causes versus triggers. So I'm a little different than most doctors in terms of headaches for three reasons. Number one, I've had migraines for years, and so I know what they're like. They run in my family. I've seen family members who have them back all the way to my grandmother who suffered from migraines and my dad. So I know what headaches are like, and then I'm interested in taking care of headaches and headache patients. And so a lot of doctors would rather have something simple or straightforward. It's like, oh, your blood pressure's up, take this pill. We'll check your blood pressure again next time. We'll see it. Headaches take some unraveling and they take some patience, because headaches, often people have been having them for years, and so it takes a while to get to the bottom of them. And the third way I'm different than most headache doctors is that I look for root causes. And so other headache doctors will look to see and make sure you don't have a brain tumor or an aneurysm or something like that. But we look for functional root causes. We're trying to find things that are actually fixable, that will make you not have migraines anymore, rather than just find the best medicine to suppress your symptoms. So here's one of the examples that I like for that. And so people will say, oh, I went to my doctor and they told me to avoid cheese and chocolate and red wine because those are the things that cause migraines. It's like, those are the things that trigger migraines. The things that cause migraines, in our view, are root causes. So some of that's genetics, and you can modify genetics to some degree by changing, your lifestyle and diet and things. Some of that is health habits, like how much you sleep and the kinds of foods you eat. Some of it is how you manage stress and your environment. And so those are all things that push you closer to the threshold of going over and having a migraine. Whereas cheese and red wine and exposure to flashing lights or glare or chocolate, those are things that if you're sensitized and they are individual triggers for you, those are things that push you over the edge and make you have a migraine. Now, I'm Swiss, and so, I do have a special place in my heart for Swiss cheese and chocolate. And so I like to think that it's possible to get everybody to the point to where they can have the things that they like and they can live the life that they need to, and that if they're doing well enough, then maybe they can even stay up all night and not get sleep one night and not get a headache the next day. And so our goal here in our migraine world and our approach is to find those root causes, tease them out, work on them, and build your resiliency and your reserve so that you don't trigger off migraines all the time. And so that's why we look at the difference between a root cause and a trigger. And we do that by looking at blood tests. We do that by having you take our subtype quiz. And so if you've already taken our subtype quiz, that's great. Make sure that you record your type, because as the tribe here, over time, we're going to talk about each different subtype, and we're going to talk about root causes. And so if you know your subtype, that will help us look at which types of things are potentially significant root causes for you. So if you've taken the quiz, dig it out, keep that picture with the different subtypes explained on it. If you don't know your subtype and you've taken the quiz, we're happy to still have you send a note to our technical team and our team at Destiny Well. We're happy to look that up for you and send it back to you. And then if you haven't taken the quiz, by all means, that's one of our main tools. We put it out there free, and it's a different way of looking at migraine than traditional headache doctors do. Traditional headache doctors look at migraine as an end in and of itself. It's like, you have these symptoms, and so it's migraine. So it's migraine, so you're going to get these symptoms. And so I said, if you have these symptoms, it's migraine. It's like, now there's more study that shows there's specific areas of the brain, there's specific biochemical pathways, there's specific chemicals involved that light up and that are related to this. So we know that in headache specialty world. But what we look at in functional medicine world is what drives those things closer. What are the antecedents, the things that are going on before that are related to being root causes? What are the mediators, the things that sustain it? And then we also want to identify the triggers. And so we've had some folks in here giving some good practical advice like, oh, I find that ice packs really help my headaches. And personally, I actually find that heat packs help my headaches because I have a strong structural component when I take the quiz. And when I look at my life, I have a lot of neck tension. And neck tension, as we talked about in the seminar that we gave, has a lot of afferents, or a lot of nerves that go from in the neck into an area called the spinal trigeminal nucleus in the upper brainstem, and that's just the migraine trigger zone. So neck pain and tension goes into the migraine trigger zone, and it's sending signals all the time when it's there, and that pushes you closer to firing off the whole migraine mechanism and getting the whole nausea, vomiting, light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, throbbing headache, one side, worse with exercise. Whatever it is you get when you have a migraine that's fully triggered, this pushes the trigger mechanism closer. So it's like if you have a pistol and you're starting to squeeze down on it, but you haven't fired it off yet, neck pain is like squeezing that trigger a little bit. And so are a lot of other root causes. And so you're close to firing that off all the time. So that's what we like to look at here. And the free tool that we have, the migraine subtype quiz, is one of the things that will help you identify your subtypes. As we talked about during the seminar, the way we define some of these things is different than others. And so we use that whole neck pain and tension and upper back and shoulder pain and tension as one of the things that we call a structural cause. Now, a traditional headache specialist would say a structural cause is a blood vessel abnormality like an aneurysm or a tumor. It's like, yeah, that's a structural cause, but it's not the kind that we can deal with on a functional basis to fix for you in a program of things that you can work on and be self-empowered with. Because if you have an aneurysm, you better find out if it's growing or changing and if you need some kind of surgical procedure for it or what needs to be observed. So that's not the kind of structural thing that we're going to identify and have you work on at home and work on with your primary doctor. That's the kind of thing that you're going to work on with a neurosurgeon and with a team of people to find out. If you have an expanding aneurysm, there's ways to treat that. That's not our structural cause. Our structural cause we choose to define in ways of what kinds of things push you closer all the time to that threshold, so that a trigger like eating cheese, aged cheese that has tyramine or other active chemicals in it that trigger trigger certain chemicals to be released in your body or mimic certain chemicals, those are the kinds of things that push you over the edge. So that's the basic difference between a root cause and a trigger. Now, I'll tell you just a brief cheese story. I lived in Wisconsin for a while, and there's actually lots of Swiss people in Wisconsin. The southern part of Wisconsin was settled by a lot of Swiss because it has the same rolling hills and it was great for dairy. And so there were lots of farms there, and there are lots of cheese factories there as well. And so when I lived in northern Wisconsin, which was mostly lumbering, I lived on a river that I used to be a whitewater canoe trip guide on. And so they had a contest in Wisconsin for naming, for the license plate statement. They had, like, it's like New Hampshire, live free or die. It's like, oh, that's a good one. But Wisconsin couldn't have that because it was already taken, and also they didn't have quite that attitude. And so I came up with Wisconsin, cheese and trees, because in the South, it's mostly farms. A lot of them are dairy farms. There's a lot of cheese. It's really good cheese, too, I might have to tell you. And then up in the north, there's a lot of lumbering. So cheese and trees. I thought it was brilliant, but the people who voted on it didn't. So if you drive through Wisconsin and they've got some boring statement on their license plate, it's not my fault because I came up with a better one. But lots of things like cheese or chocolate or red wine or glare or bright lights, those can push you over the edge and make you trigger a migraine, but they're not the cause. So the cause is a combination of genetic factors, inflammation, other things that we delve into one at a time in the migraine solution to help you unravel the things that are getting you close to that threshold. And the further back from that threshold you get, the more things you can do all the time that will make you feel like you've gotten your life back. So I've had a lot of migraine patients over the years that we were able to tease out those factors, work on them one at a time. One of the folks I'm working with now, like me, has a strong neck pain component, and so we've been working on that with a combination of different things and making good progress. I want to talk about what happens when a migraine gets better. And so no matter what you're doing to get a migraine better, there's sort of three patterns. And in the headache literature, when we write articles about headaches, we keep track of three things. It's like, how often are you having headaches? How severe are they? And how long do they last? And so like we talked about in the seminar, a migraine typically lasts between 4 and 72 hours. Now in kids, they can be shorter. Kids' migraines are sometimes as short as 2 hours. I've seen them 1 hour, but the official says 2 hours, and that's untreated. So if I have a migraine that I treat and it goes away, in an hour, it can still be a migraine, but it's untreated or unsuccessfully treated, they last 4 to 72 hours. That's for an acute migraine. Now, people can get chronic migraines where they actually have a headache all the days or more than half of the days, and more than half of the time they have a headache, or sometimes it's even 24/7 when they flip over into chronic daily headache with a migraine source. But a migraine headache itself lasts 4 to 72 hours, and that's a pretty long period of time. So when a migraine headache gets better, the sequence that I usually see is first, the headache becomes less intense, and that's a really good thing. And second, the headache lasts shorter, so the more the day that you're headache-free. And then third, you start having more headache-free days. And my clinical experience, just working with people with migraines over the years, is that if you have headaches that are 7 or 8 all the time, that's pretty, 7 or 8 on a scale of 10 all the time, that's pretty disabling. It's hard to concentrate. It's hard to think, I'm going to go for exercise. It's hard to think, I want to go out and be social and have social connections and see my friends, because I feel miserable all the time. And so whatever I do makes me worse, makes me more exhausted, sort of drags me down deeper in the hole. And so if somebody has a headache that goes from an intensity of 7 or 8 down to 2 or 3 on a 10 scale, they still have a headache, but a lot of times they can ignore it, or it doesn't really get their attention all the time, and they're still able to focus and work through it. And that's one of the definitions of migraine. It has to be moderate to severe in intensity. So a lot of people have tension headaches that are milder, and tension headaches, you know, can be super bad and can get to be chronic headaches, so they're nothing to ignore, but they usually aren't as disabling. And the reason they usually aren't as disabling is because most of the time there's not as intense. And a headache of an intensity of 1, 2, or 3, I mean, I've had people who've been through whole pain rehabilitation programs for their headaches. They were having headaches of a 9 to 10 scale and hadn't been to school or to work for a year. They went through a pain rehab program, and their headaches were there all the time still, but they went down to a 1 out of 10 scale. And at 1 out of 10, they said, I hardly noticed it compared to what I was before, and I've learned to ignore it. I can still tell it's there if I think about it, or I notice it once in a while, but it's no longer ruining my life. So the first thing that tends to get better with headaches is the intensity, then the duration. So if you were having headaches that usually lasted 8 or 10 or 12 hours, and it goes down to 3 or 4 hours, then you got a lot of your day back and a lot of your life back. So let's say you're having headaches 3 days a week and they were 8 hours, and then you went down to having them 3 days a week, but they were only 2 hours. It's like multiply that number of hours times the number of weeks in a year, and you think, wow, that's probably a month's worth of days that I don't have headaches in terms of the hours added up and divided by 24. And then the last thing, and generally the most appreciated, is when you get less headache days in the month. And so, chronic migraine is defined as anything on chronic daily headache, anytime you have a headache 15 days a month or half the days a month or more, and they last 4 hours or more. And so that's chronic daily headache, and migraine is the path to chronic daily headache 60 or 70% of the time. So migraine is the most common thing to lead to chronic daily headache. So most people just think my headache's improving. When they think of it, it means I have a lot less headaches. But that intensity and that duration is a big factor of getting better, and that's what we usually see when people's headaches start to heal and they feel like they start to get their life back, and then they get into that positive spiral, because if they can get more work done, they don't feel behind all the time. They don't feel behind all the time, they don't feel pressured and stressed. If they don't feel pressured and stressed, they don't have that tension here or there, or eye strain, or squinting or stuff all the time. And so that's what we're looking for in the migraine solutions. We're looking for a positive spiral. We're looking for, like the eagle, when the eagle circles around and you go to a higher and higher level and you see things from higher and higher and you have more perspective. So we're looking for things to get better and better. And when you feel a little better, you can exercise more. When you can exercise more, you can spend more time shopping. You can spend more time cooking and cook healthy, whole foods rather than just eat processed foods with a lot of additives in them. So all those things that you can do that help you come from that positive spiral of taking your life back. And that comes, in our experience, when you really want to get better from migraine rather than just suppress it, or rather just control the symptoms or having something to do when it happens. That comes from identifying and unraveling your root causes. So make sure you've taken our migraine subtype quiz. We'll post a link to it here. It's also on our website, and make sure that you keep track of that, and then when you see that subtype, take a screenshot of it, write it down, store that away, because that's going to be something we're going to use in our discussions on an ongoing basis here in this group, where we're here to be your migraine tribe. We're here to help you find as total health as you can have with migraines, and then along the way to shed those migraines and make that something in the past that you've had that you're still sympathetic and empathetic for, because you know other people have terrible versions of it. But as we work together, we hope you'll get to be in that group of folks who used to have migraines but don't have them anymore. Stop back and see us next week. We're delighted to have you, and we wish you health and happy recovery. Take care.